Oh,
So the first question was all about getting each of the people here the impression about what they think about religion and culture back home. Do they believe that it's more favoring women or is it the opposite? So I can go first. So I truly believe that there's a
oh my gosh. I can't hear anymore. Can you guys hear me?
Society. Did you hear that?
It just completely cut off. Like it was, I thought you muted or something.
It's okay.
Okay.
I said that I believe that our culture and religion are not giving as much consideration that women should be getting in our society. Did you get that part?
Yes.
Great. So, any other perspective on this thing?
I think that at least from my culture and where I come from, there's a lot of aspects that do like you said, like they diminish women and they don't necessarily give women the same opportunity that men are afforded. And I feel like there's so many aspects to that. It's not just like, one thing, there's different things. And I was like literally sharing a story with like Sweetie today in the morning about like how I speak about like my periods and my brother is like disgusted about it. And I'm like, it's normal, it's a biological thing. It shouldn't be something that you're like, whoa, why are you speaking about that? And it's a culture thing, I understand. It's also part of like the socialization process. He was brought up in a sense that, and I saw this with how my parents brought me up and how they brought him up. It was that kind of a thing where when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to talk about such things. And so he automatically thought like, okay, yeah, I shouldn't be knowing these things, but I genuinely think that men should be educated about like women's sexual health and their anatomy, and they're not, and well, that's a whole other discussion. And even in religion, because I'm Christian, and I'm sure this cuts across like most religions from like Islam to Hinduism, although I'm not familiar with most of them because well, I'm not Christian, but I was raised Christian, and you could see how you only have priests as males, and so you don't really see female figures who are like in leadership positions as such. You only see men, and yeah, so like in a general sense, I would definitely say that women aren't given the same opportunities as men when it comes to religion and culture.
Nice, nice.
I think like on a positive side, but it could also just be like them trying to make it look like there's some evolution in it. But like at least in Angola, some churches, some Catholic churches now have like acolytes that are females, which was never seen before. And it's like a very recent thing. I think that's like a development, but I also wonder if that's just because they might just stay there because that's like the lowest representation level in the church structure. Like that's the lowest part. They probably will not accept them to like I don't know if they will accept it like to be female priests. Like that's a really long way to go. But I think it's already like a development from just accepting women to be like in the choral group, just singing, and to like accepting them to actually be assisting and helping in the mass. I think that like shows a little bit of evolution, but I don't think that translates into like Angolan culture overall because I feel like I grew up as also Catholic and like Christian, and most of the things that you learn, it's not really putting women up. It's more like putting them subjective to someone. So the purpose is to help, to assist, not to be the one doing the things and being helped to, or like equally contributing, nothing like that. It's usually just to help, to assist. And most of the questions will be like, why you want to do this? That you can just go and help. It's not like, oh, you can go do it on your own. Yeah.
And agreeing with Swedi, because I'm also from Angola, is that even sometimes the men are going to be the one not trying to facilitate you in a way of let's say, even incorporating about religion, like if there's a specific activity or even like the mass and everything, they're gonna be the one of like guiding you, but not actually giving you the power for you to be able to do what you want to do. So,
Echoing, sorry, echoing what both of you said, like it's sad, but back home it's a big thing being like considering a woman or girl submissive, and I would say I'm a victim because my aunt, she's like, oh, she's always reminding me, oh, man, I should bring the family together. Ah, why don't you say it to my brothers? We are like to my grandparents, we are like almost, I don't know, 10 grandkids. And even your own daughter, she's there, 25 years. You're not telling her to bring the family together. You're telling her to bring the family together. Anyways, yeah, they are, and nice. But for the bringing up part, my parents at least they didn't make that difference. Like they taught both my brothers and I like the same. There was no different that oh this is a woman's this is what a woman should do. My father was very strict on that. We were always the same way. But then religion wise, again, it's just like there's a specific type of, I mean, not specific, but there's a way women should dress when they go to church. It's still there. But then men, they can wear shorts. They can go to church. It's just a way. And then even when the most, they would say the most comfortable, I don't know, comfortable way for women to just go to church is like a dress. But then when you see a curvy girl wear a dress and she's sexy in it, she'll go to church. Well, it's a problem. What do you want us to wear? I know.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just really, yeah, it's just again that.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the conversation is tying on how our culture should be evolving the same way mentalities are evolving too. But now the question is, do you think the mentality back home is evolving? Because we are a few specimen of people back home. We got the opportunity to get outside the continent and experience new things, talk to new people, get new perspective. Do you think that people back home have the same open mindedness that we have to make actually our culture evolve the same way too?
I don't think so.
I
Yeah.
think, actually, I have a very different take on that. Actually, I think it's really interesting because I see these contrasting groups of people. Like we have people in my generation, and then we have people who are like the older generation, who are like my parents, my aunties and uncles, and those people are. I feel like speaking particularly to my family, I feel the mentality is evolving with my parents more so like my mom because she's more open minded than my dad, and so like I mentioned earlier how we were socialized like differently, my brother and I, how my brother was like, I was expected to oh, I didn't say, but I was expected to be in the kitchen, help out in the kitchen, and my brother was like playing video games or on the phone with his friends. And I see that changing now, and even just the conversation in my family, because they're slowly understanding that okay, if I can cook, he can cook too. That's not something that should be like a gender role. It's not something that should be like, oh, you're female, you should do this. Oh, you're male, you can't do that. But then just like taking it outside of my family with like my generation, I see most of my at least the females or my friends around me are like their mentalities are changing. They aren't so much like, oh yeah, I'm a female, I should do this, or I should be submissive, I'm serving the man, and that kind of thing. I see them being more outspoken about like their femininity and like just being, women taking up space. Like they're genuinely trying to take up space in society, and they're like, well, you can't push me to the side, you can't tell me I'm a woman and I can't do that. So yeah, I think it's in that sense, I feel like my generation back home, they are trying to evolve their mentality. It's the problem is more so with the older generation. They're like still stuck, back there, and it's so hard to convince them. It's like it takes so much for you to be like, this
It's
this,
like that. It's
yeah,
like they don't understand.
because they're like, no, this is how it's always been. A female does this, a male does that, and it's like
Yeah, I mean,
times
it's
are
gonna be
changing.
hard for them to actually adapt to it if they're not exposed to it. Like,
Mm.
they're just stuck in that one place. They haven't been out. I mean, most of them. So they don't know. They just have their I don't know, their previous conception or preconceived knowledge about how things should be. And talking about that from my generation, I think back home, I think there is there is both sides to it. Like some actually kind of evolve, but then they don't assimilate the good things, you know. They're just like, yeah, if they want to take the good side of Western culture, they're just gonna, they're just gonna take the bad side, like, oh yeah, I can just anyhow, this is my body. Come on, like there's some things that you can still take up space and be responsible about it. You don't have to, you know, yeah, but it's,
Before you go, can Amira just go because I feel like she wants to say something.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I wanted to answer the first question when you said like how are women affected by religion and culture. I think they're very much affected. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, especially when it comes to like women don't do certain stuff to men is fulfilled, so they have to what?
Wait, let me just pick up the speaker.
Okay. So when it comes to men, I think when it comes to jobs, women lack the opportunity to do a lot of jobs. Like for example, back home we have like taxi drivers. Is it good?
Yeah, it's really good.
We have taxi drivers and we don't do taxi.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't do taxi because it's for men, and that actually removes the income from the family. And most women, depends on the culture they are into, but there are very much a lot of traditional culture that don't allow women to work, and that put them in a detrimental situation because if the man dies, they are alone and they tend to have nothing. They don't know how to do anything except from cooking, and they tend to be poor, and that just goes from generation to generation because they will not teach anything to a woman except being a woman. And if, for example, the man dies, or if the man divorced from them, or is just irresponsible, they literally have nothing to live on, so they are not independent. So I think that's how culture affects women. And when it comes to religion, it's more of like in religion men they feel superior to women, so it also affects them when it comes to job because if they're superior that means that women cannot take certain position in, let's say, in politics or in a company, which reduce their income and all that. And to answer, is it changing? Yeah, I think it's definitely changing with my generation. A lot of people are changing when it comes to like women empowerment because of the internet. That helps a lot, even though they're not out of the country. But that I still feel like it's a small percentage. If we think about other people that are like in villages or people that don't have open-minded parents, for them it's really hard to actually be able to think out of the box and be like, okay, I can do this or that. But little by little, it's changing, and like a good percentage, yeah, yeah.
With the point that, like, I think you say,
It was like we kind of agree like that in Angola there's like this thing of people that take the wrong side of it or like take
Yeah.
advantage of the just take what they think it's the what is it about or what like
Yeah.
what profits them. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know, my generation, my generation, like that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like they're taking the wrong side of it. Like they're getting to a point that the girls, I'm not saying that yes, we are supposed to be in the kitchen and we're supposed to do like the whole thing and like we can be leaders and all of that. But I feel like it's being in a very disrespectful way of like they don't even want to respect. Yeah, you know, like they don't even respect their boyfriends in a way of like, yeah, like especially I'm also gonna talk about because like just in terms of numbers. I don't know if you guys all follow me on social media, but I don't know. But there is a post that I post one of these days. I think you saw it. It was like a statistic of the most